Good morning, everybody. It is Monday, November the 18th, the first day of the G20 meeting in Brazil. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. So this is the news that we are waking up to. Now, the recording is being done this way because I have no power. And after the stunning, massive missile and drone attack, which I believe was the largest of the war, on Saturday, the power infrastructure here in Kyiv is under stress. We know that on Saturday, the Russians launched 120 missiles and 90 drones. Of the 210 incoming aerial objects, territorial defense and the Air Force were able to deal with 183 of them. That means that 27 got through. And the country is feeling it. The country is mourning the loss of some 9 people that were outright killed. We're still digging through the rubble in a number of cities, and that number is likely to rise. Well over 100 people injured in these attacks. And long sleepless nights. Now, the custom for the Russians, what we expect from them when they have one of these big missile and drone attacks, is that there's another one the next day. That did not happen this time. That did not happen. The days leading up were small-scale attacks. Big attack, and then normally there's another big attack, like a 2-day double tap. But last night, only 6 drones on the territory of Ukraine. Why is that? You cannot tell me that the Russians are not starving for ammunition and shells and missiles. We know they are. They've had to turn to the Iranians and the North Koreans for more missiles. We know that when these missiles get shot down here, you open up the casings and the serial production date is on there. They're all being produced within the last 3 months. If they're not old Soviet stockpile that's been around for 1,000,000 years. By all accounts, the arsenals in the East are empty. Ukraine took out some of the largest strategic arsenals in the West. The Russians have to be under pressure for ammunition and missiles. And that's a good thing. Now, with the Russians under pressure, we believe we got good news that the Biden administration has said Russians can use Ukrainians can use long-range ATACMS on the territory of the Russian Federation, something that Kyiv has been pleading for months and months and months. However, I will remind viewers of this channel, if you look at my TikTok from September 16th, 2 full months ago, I reported the first confirmed ATACMS strike on Russian territory that day. So it seems to me that there has been some operational security around this. And while we don't know for sure whether this will mean that Scalps and Storm Shadows will also get that unfettered access to Russian military targets, there is an interview with Oleksiy Gerashenko this morning, who's an MP in the Ukrainian parliament here, who said, yes, we'll get that authorization now too. He seemed to take it as written. That's one man's opinion, right? But he's a person that's in a spot to know. What he's concerned about is, when are we going to get the missiles? Okay, great. Now we can use them inside of Russia. Where are they? And we don't know how many ATACMS Ukraine has. We don't know how many Storm Shadows they have. The French just announced that they're sending 10 Scalps. Okay, great, 10 Scalps. On a 1,000-mile front line with 500,000 men on each side involved in active combat, 10 Scalps? Not that Ukraine is ungrateful. I assure you, the Ukrainians are extremely grateful for every bit of help. But that help is not enough. And I worry that this is too little too late. The Russians are so close. We're so close to cracking the infrastructure that is the Russian Federation. And it is disconcerting to me. Now, to further escalate this war, we got news this morning from U.S. intelligence sources and South Korean intelligence sources that it appears that the North Koreans may have a deal with Russia to send as many as 100,000 troops. So this first batch of 10,000 is just the first batch. And when they're used up, they'll rotate in another 10,000. They'll rotate in another 10,000. The North Koreans may at this point be preparing to provide Russia with virtually unlimited troops. North Korea is a militaristic society, and they've got millions of men at arms. They can send 1 million men and still have 1 million men at home. That should be disconcerting to everyone. You have North Korean forces in Europe killing Europeans. That should be getting everybody's attention. And it also brings up, so you got Ukraine, a country of probably 30 million people now, with everybody, all the refugees out of the country and everybody that's been unalived by the Russians, fighting two nuclear powers with combined economies and populations, roughly economies 10 times, populations 5 times. And it is not a fair fight. And we are not doing these guys any favors by trying to micromanage this war from D.C. So you got two nuclear powers fighting a country of maybe 30 million people on the doorstep to Europe, and who may have the implicit support of the Chinese. Let's face facts. The biggest benefactors to Pyongyang and Moscow is Beijing. That's the bottom line. China, for its part, tends to be not want to see these kinds of instabilities happen in the world, especially not on the Korean Peninsula. They want the status quo maintained on the Korean Peninsula, but they have refused to condemn this action or put pressure on Moscow and Pyongyang to cut it the fuck out. It is expected, today is the first of the 2-day G20 summit in Brazil. Xi, Biden, and Schultz are all going to be there. It is expected that in their private meetings with Xi, both Biden and Schultz will say the same thing. They will say, what are you going to do about Russia and North Korea and this unholy union? Can you put some pressure on these guys to cut this shit out? And what comes of that, or which side China comes down on, is anybody's guess. Until they publicly declaim this alliance and tell Pyongyang to stop sending its troops, they are implicitly supporting it. They're implicitly supporting it, which effectively means that Ukraine is now fighting the combined economies of Russia, China, and North Korea. If only the arms and armies of 2 of those 3 nuclear powers. So guys, that is the news that we are waking up to. The world, this is a watershed day for Ukraine. There's no doubt about it. It looks like we have good indications that Storm Shadows and Scalps will be on the menu. And so we can expect to see some results with long-range strikes at military targets inside of Russia, likely within the week. The question of North Korea should be of the utmost importance to everybody. Everybody. When I think about the long-term or the massive drone and missile attacks in Kyiv on Saturday, it has the smell of desperation. Look at us. We're not out of weapons. We got lots of shit yet we can throw at you. Bullshit. Bullshit. Now is the time to ratchet up the pressure at every possible point. Not shy away from it. You want to talk about World War III? You got North Koreans killing Europeans in Europe. It is World War III. Fucking get a grip. And it's World War III like we've never seen a war, because there's hybrid warfare that the Russians are executing against the West every fucking day. When are we going to realize that this is our chance to put an end to the greatest evil in the world and take Russia out? That's the only way that the world wins in this conflict. And now is the time to kill this beast while it's wounded. In my humble opinion. Well, maybe not so humble. In my opinion. Let's just put it like that. Thanks, guys. That's the news we're waking up to for Monday, November the 18th.